Welcome, kids. As Kevin McAllister from Home Alone would say, this is it. Don't get scared now. It's time to learn manual mode, so here we go. All right. I'm going to use this packet. It's going to be linked on my website, so you guys can certainly go through this. I pretty much have it memorized, but, you know, that's all right. Okay, so the first thing that we are going to do, put the SD card in, check the battery, check your ISO, exposure flash compensation is 0.0, image quality, image size, JPEG, fine, image quality large. So make sure all that stuff is good to go. Then we are going to make sure you are on M for manual mode. So this is what we use in class. This is what you're going to use for the rest of your lives. So it's really important that you learn this. This is also why we're not doing iPhone photography, because you have these beautiful cameras and you should use them as much as you can, and you got to learn manual mode. Industry standard, that's what I say. Okay, so you put your SD card in, right? You checked your battery. So don't forget, again, as a reminder, I know, right? How many of District 219 cameras do I have in my house? It's so I can do this. All right, so make sure you are on manual focus. And again, you want to be on manual mode, all right? So make sure both are good to go. So you went to the shooting menu, image quality, JPEG fine, image size large, 0.0, flash, exposure compensation. What else? I think that's it. White balance is on auto, so make sure you have that all set as well. Okay, now, in my apartment, again, I think 400 ISO is going to be good because it's bright, but don't forget, if you are shooting outside, which you should 100% do, you're going to get the best lighting when it's outside. ISO should be 100 or 200, depending on how bright it is, but it should be so bright you need to put your sunglasses on. ISO 400 outside, maybe cloudy, don't see too many shadows. In ISO 800 indoors with like fluorescent light, not really great lighting, or at night, try to stay away from 1600 because you know 800, 1600 ISO, your photos are going to be grainy, which are gross, and we don't want that. So there you go. Okay, so how do I start with manual mode? So what's scary about this is you have to decide the shutter and the aperture and the ISO. But ISO is easy. You just look at your lighting, right? Oh, there goes my balloons. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, let me get off of this screen. All right, so my ISO is going to be at 400, so I'm good with that. Exposure flash compensation are both at 0, so I am happy with that. Okay. Right now, I have 1/1000th of a second at f/22. That is going to be the darkest photo of all time. Hardly any light's going to be able to get into that camera, so that's not going to be good, okay? So what we're going to do is I like to start with my shutter speed at, sorry, my hair is crazy. My shutter speed at 1/125. The reason is because I have room to go slower, because don't forget, once I hit 1/60th of a second, then I get into camera shake territory, which is really, really scary. But I still have some stops in between where I can still go slower if I need, and I still have room to go faster if I want. So if you don't know where to start, let's start at 1/125 to be safe for our shutter. Okay, now this is where things get crazy. So our wheelie dial will move our shutter speed. So we are used to, in our practice, having our wheelie dial, when we move that, kind of both the shutter and the aperture have moved because we were doing shutter priority or aperture priority. But in manual mode, when we move, and again, I'll show you that one more time. When I move the wheelie dial, it's just moving. Let me try to get this closer. When we do that, yep, you guys can see now, it's just moving the shutter speed, okay? So 1/125, 1/125, right there, okay? So a lot of you guys, I'm gonna keep this close so that you guys can see. A lot of you guys somehow can't get that number, so just make sure you keep moving your wheelie dial till you get to 1/125. Okay, so right here, is my exposure meter or my light meter. So right now, if I look at it, I can see that it is going to the minus, okay? What do you think that's telling me? Not enough light is getting into my camera with my aperture set at f22. F22 is a super small aperture, so yeah, not a light is getting in at that. So what I'm going to do, let me back this up a little bit, bear with me, is right up here, there is a plus minus button. You're gonna be holding down the plus minus and moving your wheelie dial at the same time, all right? So, in order to move my aperture in manual mode, I'm going to hold down the plus minus and I'm gonna move this. So, some of your cameras are opposite. The newer cameras are opposite. The older cameras are, you move the wheelie dial in the direction to the 0, and the newer ones you move opposite. So, let me get as close as I can to this. All right, so, you see how when I move this, the goal is to get to the 0. All right, but here's where kids get confused. What they do is they have it set at 1/125, right? And then you hold down the plus minus and you have the camera looking down and you're moving it until it gets to 0, right? And then you put it up to your eye to take a picture and everything changes because I just exposed the proper exposure for the floor, not for what I was looking at. So if I were to do this, so as I was moving that exposure meter, I have to take the photo of what's in front of me. So I would hold down the plus minus while I'm looking at whatever I'm looking at and adjust. Now, what's great about your viewfinder is as you're looking through the camera, you know that exposure meter that I have in here, that exposure meter is also in your viewfinder. So, what I say, set your camera at 1/125, start there. Hold down the plus minus. Put the camera up to your eyeball. Look at whatever you're gonna take a photo of. Then, adjust. You know, you can also focus first if you want to. So focus your camera as you're holding down the plus minus. I have not taken my second finger off the plus minus. As I'm looking through the camera, as I'm looking at what I want to take a picture of, I adjust the plus minus with the wheelie, I adjust the aperture, holding down the plus minus with the wheelie dial until I get it at the 0. Inside the viewfinder, the light meter is in there. It'll tell you when you're at the 0. Once it's at the 0, then you can take the picture. So if I'm taking this picture exactly as is, let's see. Okay, right now my exposure meter is right there. I don't know if you guys can see that. I think you can. Yep. So then I would just focus my photo. There we go. And then I would take my photo. All right, so it's perfectly exposed. So I'm gonna screw up all these things again. And let me change what I'm looking at now. Oh, can you guys see that? Yeah, you can still see that. Okay, so let's get out of this view. All right, so let's adjust a bunch of things here, just so we know. Okay, here we go. So again, my ISO is gonna stay at 400. It likes to be there in my apartment, that's fine. So right now I'm at 1/800, okay? Let's start at what number? We're gonna move our wheelie dial till we get at 1/125, okay? Now, right now it's saying, if I look at my exposure meter, oh, too much light is getting in. So I need to adjust the aperture. So I'm gonna hold down the plus minus. As I'm holding down the plus minus, I'm going to adjust until it's at the 0, which it is right now. However, don't forget, you will be looking through your camera as you're doing this. I'm just trying to demo it to you guys. Then I'm going to focus on the photo and take the photo. And it's, again, a perfectly exposed photo. Now, some different stuff are gonna happen as you're doing this. Let's say you're trying to take a photo, and let me try to get it up so you guys can see what it might look like. Okay, so everything that you have done, so you're at 1/125, you are at f3.5, your ISO is good, but no matter what you do, your photo is still saying that you are underexposed, okay? You have some options. Option 1 is you can adjust your ISO. So you can make your ISO 800, 1600, because that'll allow more light in, okay? The other thing is, don't forget, you can go to 1/60th, but let's say you go to 1/60th and still not enough light is getting in, then what you need to do is put the camera on a tripod, or you can add more light to the scene. Go outside. Any of that stuff will allow you to get more light into the camera, and or if you're taking a picture slower than 1/60th, you have to have the camera on a tripod, otherwise you'll get camera shake. We'll get more into that in a little bit, but that is the gist of manual mode.